I met Amanda when I was 27, fresh out of grad school, still green but eager. She was 24, already blazing a trail as a program coordinator for a nonprofit that built housing in underserved neighborhoods. We crossed paths on a charity infrastructure project near downtown Charleston. I was managing drainage solutions for flood control. She was organizing volunteers and supplies. The first time I saw her, she was elbow-deep in cement mix, cracking jokes with teenagers while explaining structural load limits. That night, we grabbed dinner with the team and ended up talking for hours at a rundown diner off King Street. She had this fire in her, this belief that you could actually make the world better if you just worked hard enough. I didn't know it yet, but I was falling for her before my burger even hit the table. We started dating soon after. Everything moved fast, but it never felt rushed. We clicked, same values, same drive, same obsession with building something meaningful. Amanda dreamed of going global, bringing her skills to disaster zones and refugee camps. I wanted to lead large-scale coastal resilience projects. Kids were a someday, maybe plan. For the time being, we both agreed, work first. By 30, Amanda had climbed to regional coordinator for her nonprofit, traveling constantly, meeting with donors, managing teams across the Southeast. I was working at a private firm, helping design seawalls and surge barriers along the Carolina coast. We were proud of each other. Busy, tired, sometimes stressed, but proud. We got married in a small ceremony behind my parents' house, under a tent that nearly blew away in a freak gust of wind. We laughed through it. The house we bought was modest, low-lying, prone to flooding, but we chose it intentionally. I'd been studying ways to elevate residential structures in vulnerable areas. Amanda wanted to show that affordable housing didn't have to mean unstable housing. We called it our living experiment. We were going to reinforce it ourselves. Side project turned life's mission. 5 years in, everything changed. Amanda was the one who told me, eyes wide with the kind of wonder I hadn't seen in a while. "I'm pregnant," she said, breathless and shaky. My heart stuttered. We hadn't exactly planned for it, but we weren't reckless either. I hugged her, kissed her forehead, and told her we'd figure it out like we always did. At first, she said she wanted to keep working, maybe just scale back. But the closer her due date got, the more she began talking about staying home. By the time Jordan was born, Amanda had made up her mind. "He needs me here," she said one night, rocking him slowly in the glow of the hallway light. "And honestly, I want to be here." I supported her, no hesitation. She had given everything to the world for years. It was okay to give something to herself now. So she stepped back, and I stepped up. I took more projects, traveled more, worked longer hours to make sure she wouldn't have to go back if she didn't want to. I told myself this was balance, just a different kind. I was doing my part, providing, holding it together. But even in those early months, I remember feeling a shift. Not in how much we loved each other, but in the weight of the things we carried. Like I had taken on more than I realized. And she had put something down she wasn't sure how to pick back up. Back then, I didn't think it mattered. I thought we'd even out eventually. That sacrifice was just part of the job, part of love. I didn't realize how heavy things were getting until much, much later. After Jordan was born, life got loud. Diapers, feedings, midnight pacing, then daycare, preschool, scraped knees, Legos underfoot. But somewhere in all that noise, something quieter began slipping through the cracks. I was working like a machine. Long hours, project deadlines, field visits to flood zones and barrier construction sites. I missed bedtime more than I wanted to, but I never missed the important things. I was there for every birthday, every Halloween costume, every school event where parents had to sit in tiny plastic chairs and clap politely at glitter-glued art projects. Amanda always said she appreciated that. "You're such a good dad," she told me once after Jordan's kindergarten music night. "You show up, even when it's hard. You're the strongest man I know." I remember that moment so clearly, how warm it felt to hear those words. Like maybe I was getting it right. But things shifted slowly, almost invisibly. At first, it was just little changes. Amanda used to meet me at the door with a smile or a rundown of her day. Now she barely looked up from her phone when I came in. Dinner conversations turned into updates about Jordan or reminders to take out the trash. Not cold, just transactional. Polite. She still kissed me goodnight. Still said, "Love you" before bed. But the way she said it felt like habit, not connection. One night, I got back from a 3-day job site in Wilmington. I walked in with sore legs and a box of donuts I knew Jordan loved. Amanda was sitting on the couch, laptop open, half watching TV. I set the donuts down and kissed her on the cheek. She barely reacted. "You okay?" I asked. She didn't look up. "Yeah, just tired." She was always tired. And not the new parent, running on fumes kind of tired. Something heavier, sharper. I'd catch her staring out the window while Jordan played, her expression blank. Or I'd say something, trying to be funny, and she'd blink like I'd interrupted a thought she hadn't even realized she was having. I kept telling myself it was the phase of life we were in. Parenting was hard. Marriage took work. Maybe she missed her career, her identity outside the house. Maybe we just needed a vacation, or more time, or less stress. But late at night, lying next to her in silence, I started wondering if I was losing something I didn't know how to fight for. There was no big blow-up, no obvious signs. Just this steady, quiet drift, like watching a boat slowly slide out to sea, unsure when it even came untied. I remember one Saturday morning, watching Amanda watch Jordan build a tower out of blocks. He looked up and said, "Mom, you see it?" She nodded, smiled, but her eyes looked far away, like she was somewhere else entirely. That's when I realized she wasn't just tired. She was gone. Not physically, but emotionally, piece by piece. And I didn't know how to reach her. I thought I could fix it by trying harder, earning more, being more present when I could. But the truth was, I didn't understand what was happening. I was the provider, the anchor, the one who never let the boat rock. But maybe, in doing all of that, I hadn't noticed she was already slipping overboard. And by the time I finally looked around, she wasn't waving for help. She was just drifting, quietly, politely, away. I cut back on travel first. Told my firm I needed to stay local, that Jordan was starting first grade and I didn't want to miss it. They understood. I started turning down the big out-of-town bills, the high-stakes coastal jobs that paid the most. I was home for dinner almost every night that fall. I thought that would help, but it didn't. Amanda didn't get warmer. She got quieter. There were more sighs, more half-closed doors. She started leaving early for errands, staying late at her book club, disappearing into long walks with no explanation. When I asked about it, she'd just shrug and say, "I needed air." Sometimes she didn't even say that. One evening I came home with flowers, nothing fancy, just daisies from the grocery store, the kind she used to love. I walked into the kitchen with a smile, hoping it might break the spell. She looked at the bouquet like I'd handed her a homework assignment. "You don't have to do that," she said flatly. "I wanted to." She sighed. "Well, thanks," she added, without looking me in the eye. We stood there in silence, the hum of the fridge the only sound between us. Jordan came racing in with his Nerf gun, breaking the tension with a plastic bullet to my back. Amanda smiled at him, not at me. The next few weeks felt like tiptoeing through a house with weak floorboards. I'd offer to help more, laundry, dishes, bedtime. She'd say it was fine, then get short with me when I didn't do it the way she liked. I asked what was wrong, and she'd say nothing. I'd press, and she'd say, "God, Lucas, do you have to make everything a thing?" Conversations got clipped. Safe. Surface level. She'd ask if I paid the electric bill, not how I was feeling. I'd ask how book club was, and she'd say, "Fine," then look at her phone. When we did talk, it was like we were reading from a script, her lines written in frustration, mine in confusion. One night, over dinner, I asked her if she wanted to plan a weekend trip, just the two of us. "We could go back to Asheville," I said. "Like we did that fall before Jordan. Remember that Airbnb with the tree swing?" She put down her fork and gave me a look I didn't recognize. "We don't need a weekend away, Lucas. We need a break from pretending we're still, whatever this is." The words hit me like cold water. I tried to keep my voice steady. "What is this?" "I don't know," she said, eyes locked on her plate. "But it's not what it used to be. And it's not getting better." I sat there, stunned. I had pulled back on work. I was home. I was trying. And somehow, she still felt like I was missing, like I was distant. I wanted to say, "But I did this for us." I wanted to ask, "Don't you see how hard I'm trying?" But I didn't. Because something in her tone made it clear she didn't want to fix it. She wanted out of it. That night, I lay awake listening to her breathe on the other side of the bed. Not crying. Not restless. Just asleep. Peaceful. And for the first time since we met, I felt like I was sharing my life with a stranger. And she didn't even seem to mind. It happened on a Tuesday. I'd gotten home early, earlier than expected. A storm had rolled in that morning, shutting down a site we'd been working on in Beaufort. I figured I'd surprise Amanda and Jordan, maybe pick up dinner on the way. The house was quiet when I walked in. Too quiet. Jordan was at a sleepover, I remembered, something Amanda had arranged last minute. I called out her name, no answer. The upstairs lights were on. I started up the steps, figuring she might be taking a bath or reading. Then I heard it, laughter. Not just any kind of laughter. Flirtatious. Giddy. Her voice, light and unfamiliar in its tone, drifted through the cracked door of the bedroom. Then a male voice responded, low and teasing. I froze. I don't remember walking into the room. I just remember standing there, stunned, watching Amanda on the bed, angled toward her laptop, her shirt pulled off one shoulder, her face glowing with the kind of smile I hadn't seen in years. The guy on the screen was younger, maybe late 20s, shirtless, smiling like he knew he was winning. She saw me and jumped, not in guilt, just in surprise. Like she'd forgotten I might actually come home. "Lucas," she said, her voice flat. She didn't slam the laptop shut. She didn't scramble. She just minimized the window and turned toward me like we were about to have a normal conversation. "What the hell is this?" I asked. Her expression didn't change. "You came home early. Is that all you have to say?" Amanda stood up slowly, brushing hair behind her ear. "You're not stupid, Lucas. You felt it too. You just didn't want to admit it." I shook my head, my mouth dry. "How long?" She crossed her arms. "A few months. But it doesn't matter. This didn't happen out of nowhere." I stared at her. "You cheated on me. And you're trying to justify it." She met my eyes, calm and distant. "You weren't here, Lucas. Not really. You were always working, always somewhere else, physically, mentally. I tried to talk to you, but you were married to your job." I pulled back. I snapped. I scaled back on work. I stayed. I gave up everything I was building so I could sit here alone while you stared at your phone. She shot back. "You think just being in the house means you were present? You were never really with me. I felt like I disappeared and you didn't even notice." I stood there, speechless. My heart felt like it had caved in on itself. She walked past me, down the stairs. I followed, numb, hollowed out. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She just stood by the door and said, "I'm leaving." That was it. "No counseling?" I asked. "No trying." She looked at me with pity. "I don't want to fix something that's already dead." 2 days later, she packed a suitcase and walked out without saying goodbye. No fight, no last plea, not even a glance back at the life we built. She left me with the house we chose together, the walls we reinforced, the plans we had drawn up for the next project that would never happen. And for the first time in my life, I realized that all the stability I thought I was providing had been built on a crack I refused to see. By the time I noticed, it had already split us wide open. The hardest part wasn't Amanda leaving. That had already happened long before she packed her bags. The hardest part was telling Jordan. He was 19 by then, a freshman at Clemson. Smart kid, stubborn like me. He'd come home for the weekend, and I sat him down at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd done his 4th grade math homework, where Amanda once lit candles for our anniversary. It looked too clean now, too still. I tried to keep my voice even. "Your mom and I are divorcing." He blinked. I kind of figured. There was no shock in his eyes. Just that cold, distant maturity kids get when they've seen more than they should. "She's been seeing someone else," I said quietly. His head snapped up. "What?" I nodded. "It's been going on for a while. She told me 2 weeks ago and left." He pushed back from the table, shaking his head. "Jesus." I gave him space. Let him pace. I thought that would be the worst of it. But then he stopped, turned toward me, and said, "Honestly, I'm not surprised. I always wondered when it would happen. That hit harder than any punch." "What's that supposed to mean?" Jordan shrugged. "You were never really around, Dad. Not when it mattered." "I worked," I said, heat rising in my chest, "to give you everything you needed." "Yeah," he said, crossing his arms. "Except your time." My hands curled into fists beneath the table. I showed up. Birthdays. Games. I was always there. "For the big stuff," he admitted. "But you were gone every day after school. Mom was the one helping me with projects, driving me to practice, sitting through all those dumb plays I was in. She was the one who actually paid attention." I swallowed hard. "So now none of it counts?" Everything I gave up." "I'm not saying you didn't try," he interrupted. "I'm saying it wasn't enough." The room went quiet. "You're defending her," I said finally. "She's not perfect," he said. "But she was alone. You made her feel alone." I stared at my son, the boy I'd raised, and realized he wasn't a boy anymore. He was a man who had picked a side, and it wasn't mine. That night, he left early. Said he had to get back to school. Didn't hug me goodbye. I stood at the window and watched his car disappear down the street. I had expected anger, sadness, confusion. What I hadn't expected was that he'd walk away from me just as easily as she did. A week later, the divorce papers came. Amanda had already signed them. She didn't contest anything. I didn't either. What was the point? I handed over a sizable settlement without argument. Let her have the retirement savings we built. Let her keep the car, the accounts, the furniture. I kept the house, our broken project, because no one else wanted it. The day I signed the final document, I closed the manila folder, walked to the back porch, and stared out at the levee beyond our yard, the one I helped design to hold back the sea. And I thought, funny how you can build something to withstand a storm and still have it fall apart from the inside. I was alone. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure if anyone was ever coming back. After the divorce, the silence was deafening. The house felt like an empty museum. Amanda's side of the closet was gone, but I still caught myself reaching for her shampoo in the shower. Jordan's laughter no longer echoed up the staircase. Just the hum of the fridge and the occasional creak of settling wood. At first, I filled the hours with work. Not to advance, just to survive. I picked up freelance consulting jobs with smaller engineering firms. Flood zone mitigation plans. Coastal stress analysis. The kind of work I could do from home, on my own schedule, without office politics or deadlines breathing down my neck. It didn't pay like it used to, but it was mine. I fixed up the garage, turned it into a workshop, built shelves, organized tools I hadn't touched in years. I even started drawing again, pencil sketches of old bridges and barrier walls. Not for a firm, just for me. The house started to change, too. Slowly. Amanda's throw pillows disappeared. The family photos came down. I didn't burn them or anything. I just boxed them up and put them in the attic, where they could gather dust like the memories I wasn't ready to confront. What surprised me most was how peaceful it felt. Nobody needed me to prove anything anymore. No more late-night fights, no quiet resentment, no pretending everything was fine. Just space. And stillness. And the slow work of remembering who I was before I spent a decade trying to be everything for everyone. About 6 months after Amanda left, I got a text from Jordan. "Hey, Dad. What's up?" No apology. No explanation. Just casual, like we were picking up a conversation that hadn't shattered into pieces. I stared at the screen for a long time. I thought about ignoring it. About letting him sit in the same silence he left me in. Instead, I replied, "Not much. You okay?" He took a full day to respond. "Yeah. Just figured we haven't talked in a while. Thought I'd check in." Something in me stiffened. I didn't want small talk. I wanted acknowledgement. Truth. So I wrote, "If you want to talk, talk. But don't pretend nothing happened." That was the last message in the thread. Silence returned, heavier this time. But I didn't chase him. I didn't reach out with an olive branch or a guilt trip. If he wanted to be part of my life again, he'd have to meet me in the truth, not skirt around it. Instead, I got back to work. I put in bids on a few small municipal projects. Took long walks along the riverbanks. Started cooking for myself, real meals, not just microwave trays and dry cereal. The house didn't feel so empty anymore. It started to feel like mine. For the first time in years, I wasn't a husband. I wasn't a father in practice. I wasn't a provider, a rescuer, a fixer. I was just Lucas. Engineer. Builder. Man still standing. And that had to be enough for now. It was a rainy Sunday afternoon when Jordan called again. This time, he didn't text first. Just rang my cell like we hadn't spent 6 silent months orbiting different planets. I almost didn't answer. But something told me to pick up. "Hey," I said. "Hey," he replied, voice quieter than I remembered. "Can we talk?" I waited a beat. "Yeah, we can talk." There was a long pause on the line, just the sound of rain hitting my windows. "I've been thinking a lot lately," he said. "About everything. About how I handled things." I didn't say anything. Just let him fill the space. I was angry, he went on. Confused. I saw Mom fall apart and I blamed you. Because she looked broken, and you looked fine. I almost laughed. If he had seen me in those first weeks, he'd have known fine was a lie I barely managed to wear. "She told me you were never around," he continued. "That she felt abandoned. That you left her no choice." "Did she tell you why she left?" I asked gently. There was a pause. "She said she needed to feel alive again. That you made her feel invisible." "She tell you about the video calls?" Another pause, longer this time. "Yeah," he finally admitted. I didn't want to believe it. But yeah, she eventually told me. I leaned back in my chair. "So what changed?" He sighed. "I went home for spring break. Mom's different. Jumpy. Bitter. And broke. She tried to hide it, but I found bills stuffed in drawers. Credit card statements she forgot to close on the computer. Turns out the guy she left you for took some of her savings and disappeared." I didn't gloat. I didn't even feel satisfied. Just sad. "She's struggling, Dad," Jordan said. "And for the first time, she's not pretending she isn't." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said. And I meant it. Whatever happened between us, I never wanted Amanda to fall apart. I just wanted her to be honest. Jordan cleared his throat. "Look, I'm not calling to dump all this on you. I need to say I'm sorry. I shouldn't have blamed you for everything. You were working to give us a life. I didn't see that then." I closed my eyes, letting those words settle into the cracks. "Thanks for saying that," I said. "I know it doesn't fix things," he said quickly. "But maybe it's a start?" "Maybe it is," I replied. "We'll take it slow. No pretending. No rewrites." "Yeah," he said. "No pretending." We hung up not long after, both careful not to push too far too fast. But for the first time since everything fell apart, I didn't feel like a ghost in my own story. That night, I stood in the kitchen washing dishes when I thought about Amanda again. Rumor had it she was living in a rented apartment near Greenville. Alone. In debt. The nonprofit world had moved on without her. I didn't feel sorry for her. And I didn't feel angry anymore either. Just done. She chose her path. And I was finally walking mine, one step at a time, with eyes open and no one on my back. It had been 2 years since Amanda walked out. The house didn't feel haunted anymore. The rooms had settled. The silence was no longer heavy, it was mine. Then one night, just as I was finishing up emails from a side project, my phone buzzed. A number I hadn't seen in a long time. Amanda. For a second, I stared at the screen, the name lighting up like a ghost I'd forgotten I'd buried. I answered. Hello. There was a pause. Then her voice, smaller than I remembered. Hi. I waited. I wasn't sure if you'd pick up, she said. I almost didn't. She let out a nervous laugh. I guess I deserve that. Another pause. I didn't offer anything. I just wanted to say, she cleared her throat. I'm sorry. For everything. For the way I left. For how I blamed you. I've had a lot of time to think. Still, I said nothing. I messed up, she continued. I thought I was doing what I needed. I thought I'd find something better. But I didn't. I lost everything that mattered. And I just needed you to know I regret it. All of it. I looked out the window. The streetlight outside buzzed softly. My coffee had gone cold beside me. Is that all? I asked. Amanda's breath caught. You're not even curious? About what happened to me? No, I said calmly. Not really. She went quiet. I'm not angry anymore, I added. But I'm not interested in digging it up either. I understand, she whispered. Good, I said. Then let's be clear. Don't call me again. Her voice broke a little. I miss you, Lucas. I don't miss you, I said plainly. And I don't miss the person I was when I was with you. Silence again. But this time it sounded like acceptance. Take care of yourself, I said. Then I hung up. She called back 3 times that night. I didn't answer. The next day, voicemails appeared. Long, rambling apologies. Memories. Regrets. She talked about Jordan, about the house, about how she sometimes still woke up expecting to hear me making coffee. I never listened past the first few seconds. I deleted them all. That chapter had already ended. She didn't get to rewrite it. Later that week, I sat on the porch with Jordan. He'd come by for dinner, a quiet evening, just the 2 of us and a plate of grilled chicken and corn. You hear from Mom? He asked, picking at his beer label. She called once, I said. Left some voicemails. He nodded, eyes on the floorboards. I didn't listen to them. Jordan looked up. You're not mad. I shook my head. Not anymore. What are you then? I thought about it. The wind moved through the pine trees in the distance. A dog barked 2 yards over. Finished, I said. And I meant it.